Okay, I think we're good. Testing, testing. Let me just go and put myself on the live just so I can see myself. Okay. There I am. Quality's not the best. I definitely have to invest in a live stream webcam. Most definitely. Why do I have 2 likes? It's funny. Okay. So, we're gonna get into it where we left off with the questions. Where were we? So yeah, last time we spoke about, let me just put this down here. Last time we spoke about human nature, knowledge and truth, love. Okay. Now we've reached spiritual and metaphysical. Let's do this. So, first question, one of the biggest ones. Does God exist? Let me just feel my computer here. Yeah, it's definitely heating up. Does God exist? I think the biggest problem surrounds the fact that we have the entirely wrong notion as to what God is, right? And I think that's because of the cultural narrative that society has sort of implied upon this deity, right? We've always seen God as something separate from us, something separate from our imagination, from our consciousness, from our ability to think, revise, reflect, and be aware, right? The real problem with that lies in the division. Where does your imagination end and where does God begin, right? That's the real question. Um, in my humble opinion, I think God is, in a very crude way, a delusion made by the human psyche to explain the unexplainable. Um, Last live stream, I've always been, talking about the uncertainty of things, how humans despise it, but it's something that I think we should really dig deep and reflect on. And that's the only reason why this deity exists in the first place, is because we don't have the humility to accept our limitations as a species, as flesh, and so that anything unexplainable is just, it's God, it's God, it's God. It's a sad conclusion because it stops us from advancing. It stops us from trying to dig deeper when there's this large wall, large uh, obstacle that a lot of us just can't get over. So the existence of God is the existence of man. We have created God and we have fashioned him to be this egregore, right? This metaphysical uh, output of energy that all of society, well, not all, but most have dedicated a lot towards, right? The existence of God is the existence of man. It's the existence of our imagination. It's the existence of our beliefs. But there isn't a deity other than ourselves. We are the deity. We are what gives birth to the deities throughout all of human history, all of mythology. Uh, so yeah, at the end of the day, we are God. All of us. It's just this infinite, never-ending fractal. So when people ask me, do I believe in God? It's like saying, do I believe in my own existence? Well, clearly, I'm here, right? But it's just like two very different meanings. I love pantheism. I think it explains, I think, the closest to objectivity. So, you know, I fuck with that. What happens after death? This is a question that I'm going to humble myself with and say I have no idea. Have I died? Nope. Will I die? Yeah. Will I know the answer then? Sure. Do I know the answer now? Nope. I'm not gonna act like I do. Why would I? You know? That's cocky, arrogant, foolish. How could I be alive and know what happens after death? It just doesn't make sense. So, it's a hard pill to swallow, you know? When I was younger, it scared the shit out of me. I don't know what happened. Heaven, hell, nothing, something, reincarnation, who knows? I don't know. Do you know? Nope. If you assume so, you're false in that assumption. All assumptions about what happens after death, false. Near-death experiences, sure, you might have kissed the veil, touched it a little, you know, caressed it, fondled it. But you don't know. Nobody does. Are spiritual experiences real? Well, leading up to the next question. All spiritual experiences in a very rudimentary, I have to stop saying that word. In a very foundational way could just be brain malfunctions or something a lot deeper, something a lot more mystical. But in my humble opinion, I don't really see the difference between the mundane and the mystical. I think they're one and the same. I think that the spiritual and the physical are just two sides of the same coin. They coexist simultaneously, but is dependent on one thing, right? How the coin is only consisted of one metal, you know? It's just existence, explaining itself, revising itself, interpreting itself. And so, yeah, all spiritual experiences are as real as any physical experiences, you know? No matter if it happens subjectively and can't be recreated empirically, or you know, it's only up to the observation, right? Who's to say that my spiritual experiences weren't real, and who's to say that your spiritual experiences aren't real? They all are, right? So, what is the soul, if anything? I think the biggest human misinterpretation comes down to the fact that we don't know how to distinguish the soul and the mind, right? I can go down the reductionist path and say, how do you separate the mind from the soul? Is it thoughts? Is it awareness? Is it emotions? Is it intuition? Is it instinct? I can jot down everything either physically or mentally, but why does there need to be this third layer, this third base? You know? If I can explain everything through the physical or the mental, why does the spiritual need to exist in the first place? You know? What is the soul? What is the spirit? If it's awareness, I could just convince you that it's just mental, right? If it's senses, I could just convince you that it's physical. So why does the soul need to exist? You know? And that's where either humans completely underestimate the mind or completely overestimate the spiritual itself, you know? Thinking that we need a soul in order to define this reality. We need a soul in order for us to have meaning, in order for us to be valuable. But we don't. We don't need souls to have meaning or to be happy or to be loved. There's no place for the soul, just as there is no place for God. So, next question. Why do humans seek transcendence? I'll say anecdotally, my experience was just curiosity. I wanted to know the limitations of the human mind. I wanted to know, what was it? Where did it lie? Was there ever a limit? Was there ever a ceiling? The answer is yes and no. The potential that we have as conscious observers of this reality, infinite. But only confined within our sensory organs. That is the limit. Uh, to transcend oneself is, it's like the Ouroboros, right? You are trying to transcend your own tail. It's your tail. That's the only realization. The whole transcendence is thinking that you are getting from point A to point B. But true transcendence is realizing that there is only ever point A and the constant refinement of such. There's no point B. There's no moment in time in which you say, ah, yes, I have transcended. It's a ever-growing experience. And it's important not to get caught up in spiritual bypassing or something of that sort. So, yeah, humans seek transcendence because we could, because we can. Um, Curiosity, power, knowledge, um, it's an integral part of who we are. It's been ongoing for thousands of years, the attempt in trying to transcend this physical plane. I think it does exist, but I'll leave that for another live. Um, could religion exist without institutions? Of course. Of course. The only reason why religion exists with institutions is money. That's it, you know? Religion exists in the human heart. Religion exists as the mental. It has no need to have places or principles, right? Built and integrated so deeply in society. Why? We can literally just believe. But no, everything's a money grab, right? Everything is, that's it. Literally just for the money. So of course religion could exist without institutions. Is enlightenment real? My favorite answer to this is, I saw a meme a while ago. It said, the answer to enlightenment is, and that was it, right? To me, enlightenment is just existence. Once again, it's the misinterpretation that enlightenment is going from point A to point B. There is no point B. There is only ever point A. We don't need to bring ourselves out of something. We are already there. The whole journey is just realizing that in the first place. So there's no need to claim enlightenment. There's no reason to claim that we can be anything other than ourselves. It's, I think, the acceptance in the fact that we simply are who we are, and just understanding that, embracing that, not having to try and be something different, be something else. Just being confident and reassuring that this is it. This is life. This is the experience. This is the phenomenon. And that's it. There's nothing more to it. Can mystery ever disappear? There will always be mysticism. There will always be mythology. But I am very much reassured of the fact that this technological age, the age of information, has reduced the amount of mythology, reduced the amount of mystery around everything. The more we understand about ourselves, the more we understand about this reality, the less space there is for mystery to exist. But I don't think it will ever disappear. There will always be folklore. There will always be stories passed down from cultures and generations. It's just an integral part of who we are as humans. Are humans meant to know ultimate truth? There is no ultimate truth. I am the biggest denier of such. The system in which I want to integrate into reality is the anti-belief, the antithesis of foundational truth. It's humbling, but it's necessary. I don't believe that we will ever know why we are here, what we're doing, none of that. It's a rabbit hole that is never ending, and it either only ends in psychosis or suicide, to be honest. It's something that you just need to accept, you know? Our nervous system, our senses just can't understand all of this reality. It'll only ever understand a slither, and that's it. I see that there's somebody else in here. Thank you for joining. Uh, what makes civilizations collapse? That is, it's a multitude of things, honestly. I think greed, first and foremost, being overzealous, the division in man's heart due to beliefs, that's definitely one. Um, yeah, I think just collapsing is as important as building, right? There is no creation without destruction. There is no love without hate. Civilizations and empires have risen and fallen time and time and time again. There will never be a point in human history, I think, that everything will be stable. That is not the way that things sort of function, right? Um, so yeah, it's it's a tricky question, but it's definitely one that has to, I guess, be accepted. Uh, and yeah, I think it all just comes down to the attempt in trying to stabilize is the thing that actually does have instability, right? Perpetuates instability. Are humans becoming more isolated? Yeah, most certainly. There is no sense of community anymore. There is no sense of warmth. Everybody is so either judgmental or afraid of judgment. So there's so much aversion. There's so much, there's a scarcity of stranger to stranger connection. Nobody wants to look at each other in the eye anymore, you know? I saw a TikTok about it not too long ago called that was the urban gaze, I think it was. Too many strangers, too many eyes to meet, too many people to see and perceive, so humans sort of just cocoon themselves and try and either not judge or try to avoid judgment or try to be in the center of it all. But yeah, isolation is definitely on the uprise. Um, but it's understandable, it's natural. Well, not really, honestly. Social media has fucked us completely, truly. Um, does technologic does does technology improve humanity? Depends what you mean improving. Technological singularity is near. I can't lie. Can't deny it. Um, there is nothing more, I guess, scary than losing our flesh. There's nothing more fearful than trying to defeat death, because death is what allows life meaning, value. Without it, nobody wants to be immortal. That's the truth. Immortality is a curse, and honestly, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemies. So yeah. But it has definitely broadened the information that we're able to intake. It has definitely broadened medicine and all sorts of things. I mean, it has increased the human lifespan. But what we're doing to the flora, what we're doing to the fauna, is it worth it? Where are we gonna go with this, right? When are we gonna say, okay, yeah, enough is enough? Thing is, we never will. We're too we've gone in the stage of pure convenience and only caring about convenience. You know, we will run this world dry of its resources just so that we can have a little more leisure, a little more comfort, and a little more convenience. And that's the saddest part about it. You know, it's all preventable. It's just, do we want to prevent it? Wait, let me see something real quick. Hello, testing. Oh. Okay. There's no way to mute this? Okay. Yeah. Let me just close my door real quick. Next question. Why are societies polarized? They've always been so. It's just the natural way that humanity functions. I think polarization is just one of the side effects of the, how do I say it? It's one of the side effects of the complexity of who we are as people, as humanity. It's very important for polarization to exist. I think when things are too uniform, things are too cutthroat and direct, it there's no diversity, you know, there's no more complexity, there's nothing that makes us unique and different. Polarization is necessary. So, yeah. What holds societies together? Mutual respect, mutual acceptance, and the same laws and the same principles that uphold the society. It's just there's more people who are sound of mind than not. That's it, really. This society could plunge into barbarism at any moment, but it won't because there is a good amount of minded people rather than not. And I think for as long as we keep, like, in a sense, that's the problem. When do we become contained and docile and sheep-like versus just having to abide by the laws and being having human decency, right? Where does that distinction lie, you know? It's a tricky one. I'm not sure myself. Can freedom exist without limits? For as long as we're in this flesh, limits exist. It is something that I personally have never wanted to bow a knee to and accept, but I have to. I can't act like everything is unlimited and everything is formless and free. We are made of flesh, you know? If I cut, I bleed, right? For as long as that happens, um, the physical freedom will always be behind the mental freedom. It will never exceed the mental freedom, right? And I think that's also why a lot of the time we suffer. We suffer a lot because of that lack, or I guess distinction between the physical freedom we have and the mental freedom that we wish we had. Imagination is a blessing and a curse. It just depends on how we use it, right? Is modern life making people unhappy? I think it's the greatest time period to be unhappy. The early ancestors getting absolutely fucked and mauled by these, what was saber-toothed tigers, man, fucking lions and shit. Gotta hunt and like die from diseases at like my age. That's not life, man. I would rather be unhappy in this society than happy then, because it's just the standard. And that's the problem, is our standards in this society are so overblown. They're so fucking high, you know? Unga and Bunga, Uga and Buga, these people, they were happy with the most inherent and foundational of things. Yes, we have something to eat. We're not getting mauled alive. We're reproducing. We're happy. Good, right? But now modern society holds all of these standards, all of these different minute details that we need for our lives in order for us to claim happiness. It's not that it's making people unhappy, it's just that the standard of happiness has just inflated a tenfold, an infinite fold. And that's where the problem lies. What belief shapes civilization the most? I think fear. Fear has always been the most powerful motivator for individuals and uh, collective civilization. It's just that, you know, if you don't want to die and you don't want other people to die, we implement laws, right? We do this, we do that so that we can be safe, you know? It's fear, and from fear produces safety, produces convenience, produces comfort, and that's it. Are humans becoming less resilient? Um, like the other question, is modern life making people unhappy? It's the standard of resilience, right? Unga and Bunga had to defend themselves and their children from the big scary monsters, you know, the animals and whatnot, right? But now, like, we're scared to send emails and phone calls and talk to each other, you know? Um, it's the standard of comfort and convenience that has made us pussy. That's it. It's the most blunt way to put it. Um, but yeah, I would say definitely less resilient, just because we've not everybody can say, oh yeah, we've had near death experiences, you know. Oh, we're dying from illness. Oh, we're this, oh, we're that. Medicine's at an all-time high, comfort's at an all-time high. So I would say yeah, in the physical sense, yeah. But there's so many implications mentally on the mind, on judgment, and it's so much harder to just, I guess, be okay with it. So physically resilient, I guess less, definitely. The hands and the feet of the modern man would definitely be a lot less callous than the hands and the feet of, you know, Unga and Bunga and Uga and Booga. So, you know, but mentally, it's a completely different discussion. What would a healthy society look like? Oof, what a question. I think a society that has epistemic humility, first and foremost. That is the most foundational of things, which is funny because it's the removal of foundations that allows you to be humble uh, when it comes to existence. It's not making these grandiose assumptions about ultimate reality or truth or any of that. It's just allowing us to accept and embrace the uncertainty and the unknown. That, my friends, is a healthy society. That is a society who is ready to grow towards the future, who isn't stagnant in our imagination, and who accepts our mortality. That is, I think, the healthiest. Everything sort of is just a trickle effect from then, you know? Um, we would accept each other a lot more, be a lot more tolerable of one another. We would, you know, the urgency for violence and primitiveness would be lower, you know, if we understand how sacred this experience is. I don't think people appreciate life enough. So let's see. All right, that is done with the spiritual, metaphysical, and civilization and society topics. Now we have mind-bending slash viral discussion questions. Very nice. Would you want to know the exact date of your death? Like, part of me really wishes that I say no and that I would just live day in, day out, you know, just beautifully, but I'm pretty systemic and pretty rational with the way I do things. I think I would want to know, just so I know how much time I have, what I'm able to do, and shit. Like, if you tell me, oh, I'm dying in a year time, I'm gonna hurry my ass up and do whatever the fuck I want to do, you know, which sucks because I need that date for that sense of urgency, you know. I wish I didn't need it, but Realistically speaking, probably would. But if you told me like I had another 50 years of existence, I'd probably just sit on my ass a lot more. Look up. If memories changed, would you still be you? We are a mosaic of everyone we've ever loved, everything we've ever experienced. We are our memories, in a sense. Not exactly, but like when I think of who I am as an individual, I'm reflecting on the past. I'm reflecting on instances that have to do with memory. If these memories were to alter, it would be like the ship of Theseus. I would gradually change until I was no longer me. Doesn't matter if this is my individual point of awareness, the person who makes me me isn't me. Could suffering ever disappear completely? No, and it shouldn't. Suffering is what allows life to be life. Suffering is what allows us to have meaning and value in this existence. Okay? How would you know what a bad day is if you never had a good day? How would you know what love is if you never experienced hate? You need the polarity. You need the balance of these things in order to understand them, in order to acknowledge them, and in order to accept them. So suffering is a foundational part of this existence. And I don't care what the Buddhists say. You cannot transcend this suffering. If anything, you embrace it. You become like the alchemist. You alchemize and transmute this suffering. You put your pain into passion. Passion equals progress, right? Whatever your heart desires. Whatever, like, when you really think of the people who have accomplished the most, they've probably done it out of a fear of being either mundane or suffering that they've taken and processed it into something good, greatness, right? Nobody has ever achieved anything just because. There is always a very deeply rooted reason and desire why. And most of it has to do with suffering. So, no. Could suffering disappear completely? No. And should it? No. What if everything you believe is wrong? Well, that's technically the case. Our sensory organs only understand a fraction of this reality, only pick up a stimuli from the fraction of this reality, interpret it, and we have the foolish arrogance to try and assume that we know the whole picture. We don't. And we shouldn't act like we do. That is, you back? Reconnection successful. Uh-oh. What happened? Okay, yeah, we're back. Thank God I have another Wi-Fi. Okay, where was I? So yeah, infinite pleasure would most definitely make life meaningless, you know? If you were high all the time, there would be no concept of being high. It would just be the standard. And we don't need that at all. Can humans survive complete uncertainty? Humans need uncertainty. It's a hard truth to swallow, hard pill to swallow, but that's the case. The more that we allow ourselves to accept the limitations of our knowledge, the limitations of our senses, and the uncertainty that revolves around this existence, the more that we're able to progress into a future that allows us to grow, allows us not to be stagnant, but look towards the future and say, you know what, there is always more to explore, there's always more to know. I will never give a concrete answer to anything because there is always more. There will forever be more. You know? For as wide of the gap is, it's only going to get wider between the knowledge we know and the knowledge we don't know. And then the knowledge we don't know that we don't know. It's pretty tricky, but that's the case. Are we living in the most psychologically confused era? Most definitely. Technology has warped us in ways that completely unprecedented. We have absolutely no idea what the fuck we're doing. And half of the world assumes so, and half the world assumes so as well. Just in a different way, in a different tone. But yeah, it's tricky because people are suffering, some aren't, some more than others. Everybody is trying to take in this huge explosion of information and be okay with it. Remember, this is the same nervous system that Unga and Bunga and Uga and Booga had to run from tigers and lions and chase after them and eat thousands of years ago. It's the same nervous system. It's just a completely different ballgame, you know? There is no real stability. There's too much change. Too much change happening, absolutely. Let's see. Would truth matter if it made life worse? Yeah. I think with anything, truth is sort of like the storm, right? There's the calm before the storm, there is the storm, and then there is the calm after the storm. Um, Truth definitely matters because we are adaptable creatures. Life will not be objectively worse and permanently worse because of truth. We would learn to grow from it. We would learn to harness the truth and embrace it, accept it, live with it. Is identity an illusion? Absolutely. I'm actually thinking of making an entire video about this, but just to say, I'll give everybody a test, right? Look in the mirror, and for as long as you can name anything, physically or metaphysically, that is not who you are. You look at your flesh, you look at your eyes and your face and your arms and your mouth and your body, that is not who you are. That's your body, sure. Anything that you define, any words that you implicate after the I am, it's not you. So if you say, I am my face, I am my body, nope. Okay, well, let's say mentally. I am funny, I am kind, I am... Nope, it's not who you are. These are characteristics, sure, they apply, but it's not you. It's not your identity. Sooner or later, taking the reductionist path, you come to the assumption that there's nothing to assume. There's no identity to exist. Because it doesn't. It is fabricated. It is the illusion that is created from our stimuli. We allow ourselves to construct this ego and carry it on through our lives. But it's not who we are. If I told you what were you before the world told you who you were, you wouldn't have an answer. And that within itself is the answer. It's the silence that is the true identity. What would happen if humans stopped fearing death? Wondrous things. Religion would collapse. People would be a lot kinder to each other. People would understand the sanctity and the purity of existence and embrace it to the fullest. I think that if I had any wish for this world, it would be to stop fearing death. It's the reason why we fear death that allows us to believe what we believe, allows us to have all of these belief systems and doctrines. It's fear, it's uncertainty, but it needs to be embraced. I think that's it. Yeah. It's life meaning, free will. Yeah, I've already said all this. So yeah, 40 minutes. Pretty good. Is there any other questions? But I have an answer here. Nope. But yeah, if I had a one wish willow, I would definitely ask for everybody to have epistemic humility. Just embrace life for what it is, you know. Um, it's a beautiful experience. It truly is. And people just cloud it with the judgment, cloud it with their observation. They stain it. They hate each other. They hate themselves. They hate one another. But we're in this together. And it's sad that for as long as technology has approached us further, not approached us, made us closer in a sense, it's also widened the gap between individuals. People are scared of vulnerability, but I don't know if it's always been like that, but it's definitely, I guess, getting worse. Um, People don't want to look at themselves in the eyes anymore, or others, or anybody, you know? It's just either keeping your head down or looking somewhere else, you know? Me included, really. I don't want to be, my entire thing is non-confrontation, you know? I'm not a pacifist, but I definitely don't want to provoke anybody. And I feel like everybody in society is just a little unhinged, you know? You look at somebody a little bit too long, they might think, "Hey man, you got a problem with me?" And no, you know, I don't. It's just like eye contact has just been almost been demonized in a sense, you know? To look at one another in the eyes, and it's like some cultures allow staring, you know? Some cultures embrace it. But the Western Hemisphere, absolutely not. And it's just, man, we keep getting farther away from each other, time and time and time again. It's sad, you know. There is much we can learn from each other. There's much that we can teach each other, but is it ever gonna come to fruition? I sure do hope so. Anyways, I think that's it for this live. Um, yeah, thank you all for watching. I will probably divide these into shorts. Hopefully, I have some pretty good content I'm able to use on my different socials. Death of Doctrine on Instagram, TikTok. Feel me? Anyways, love you guys.